Hello and welcome to Whiskey and Smoke News Network. This is episode 1 for October 5th, 2025. My name is Chris Kumnick, and I want to introduce myself to you. I am a farm boy from Illinois, and yes, I got to Texas as quick as I could. I'm a son, I'm a brother, I'm a father, but most of all, I'm a very, extremely inquisitive person. And I would like to invite you to join me on a journey gathering information and knowledge about 4 of my favorite things: whiskey, cigars, pipes, pipe tobacco. My plan is to have an episode every week for you to enjoy and learn right along with me. On this episode, we speak with Robert Likarish of the Ironroot Republic Distillery.
It's really, again, most people have never had something that tastes like this.
No.
And it's fun because we use completely different ones than like Penelope does when they do theirs. So you get such a different result, even though you're doing similar things.
Yeah.
It's fun to me when you get such different results with same concept.
Sure.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. But first, the news. Jim Beam joins forces with Cadillac Formula One team as it prepares for its 2026 debut. Hat tip, Men's Journal. The iconic bourbon brand Jim Beam has always been about more than whiskey. It's about connection, ritual, finding something that we can all come together around. In 2026, that story will roar into the future as Jim Beam announces a multi-year global partnership with the Cadillac Formula One team. 2 icons of American heritage uniting on the world's fastest stage. This is not the first time Jim Beam and Cadillac have shared the road. Nearly 90 years ago, founder James B. Beam safeguarded the family's proprietary yeast, the literal living heart of his bourbon, by driving it home each night in the front seat of his Cadillac. It was a daily ritual, equal parts superstition and necessity, protecting the culture that would grow into one of the world's most beloved bourbons. Today, that same yeast still defines Jim Beam's flavor, just as Cadillac remains synonymous with American engineering prestige. For Beam's 7th-generation master distiller, Fred No, who also drives a Cadillac, the partnership feels less like a marketing play and more like a continuation of a long, if somewhat folkloric kinship. The Cadillac Formula One team, formed by TWG Motorsports and General Motors, will debut in the FIA Formula One World Championship in 2026. It will be the first new team addition to the Formula One grid since 2016, bringing with it not just Detroit muscle, but a distinctly American sensibility of innovation and performance. This partnership brings together 2 icons of American heritage to create something truly special, said Dan Taurus, CEO of the Cadillac Formula One team. With Jim Beam joining our family of partners, the momentum behind this project goes stronger every day as we gear up for our debut next year. That ethos will extend beyond the track. The partnership promises immersive fan experiences, responsible drinking initiatives, and the cultural activations aimed at welcoming a new generation of Formula One fans. From mason jars to roaring engines, Jim Beam and Cadillac are writing a new chapter in American history. To learn more, head over to the Jim Beam's official website. In other motorsport news, Ferrari Formula One driver Charles Leclerc has joined up with Chivas Regal to become the Blended Scotch's brand new global brand ambassador. Chivas Regal is already a major sponsor of the Ferrari F1 team. Gordon MacPhail's unveils the world's oldest single malt Scotch's Artistry in Oak decanter. The 85-year-old whiskey, that's right, 85-year-old whiskey, was distilled at the Glenlivet Distillery in 1940. I guess technically that would be during World War II. And has been released in a bronze sculpture designed by architect Jane Gang. The 85-year-old single malt whiskey has now been bottled and will be released in a bespoke decanter designed by the said architect, Gina Gang, titled Artistry in Oak. Inspired by the natural formation of oak branches, the glass decanter is suspended in sculptural bronze branches, reflecting the way an oak cask held the whiskey for its 85-year maturation. Distilled at the Glenlivet Distillery, the liquid inside the decanter was laid down on the 3rd of February, 1940, by George Urquhart, fondly known as Mr. George, and his father John in an American oak cask. Tasting notes for the 85-year-old single malt released by Gordon MacPhail highlight a nose of aged leather aromas with apricot, cinnamon, and smoky undertones, with a smooth and vibrant palate, with black pepper and dried tobacco and lingering herbal notes at the finish. A release of 125 artistry and oak decanters will be available worldwide for a, get it, suggested retail price of £125,000. In addition, Decanter 1 will be auctioned via Christie's in aid of the Forest Restoration charity, American Forests. The online auction will run from the 7th to the 21st of November 2025, and proceeds from the lot will be donated to the charity. The lot will also include a personalized whiskey tasting with Stephen Rankin, Director of Prestige, or Richard Urquhart, Sales Director, both fourth-generation members of the family behind Gordon MacPhail. Also included is the framed and signed sketch of an oak tree by Jean Gang, and the cask end of cask 336, which held the whiskey for its 8.5 decades. Compass Box announces its newest limited edition release, Brûlé Royale. Per their press release, step into our universe of sweet alchemy and be transported into the 17th century Versailles, in an epicenter of innovation in science, art, and most importantly, gastronomy. In the palace kitchens, the margin of error was minuscule. Yet the rewards of achieving just the right effect with fire and sugar would be extraordinary. Triumph or disaster, a flame's breadth apart. It was here that the maverick chef Francois Masselot created and wrote the first recipe for the creme brulee, a dessert that balances indulgence with exacting precision. His method for achieving this satisfying caramelized crust? A red-hot fire shovel. Red-hot fire shovel. His legacy has inspired Compass Box's newest limited edition whiskey. Brûlé Royale celebrates the same spirit of innovation and exactitude, crafted from single malts from Speyburn, Ardbeg, Ben Rennes, and Clynelish distilleries, and matured in custom American white oak barrels that are toasted and charred with scientific precision. It reveals indulgent flavors of peach, butterscotch, spiced molasses. This blended Scotch whiskey release was bottled in August of this year with a yield of 8,556 bottles. It is non-chill filtered, uses no artificial coloring, and is bottled at 49% ABV. Pricing is approximately £106 or $142 per bottle. Kilchoman founder Anthony Wills expresses his hope for the Scotch industry in recovery as the Islay Distillery marks 20 years of operation. Anthony Wills established Kilchoman on Islay's west coast in 2005, one of the first entrepreneurs to venture back into single malt production following the industry's sharp downturn in the 1980s. Today, the barley to bottle distillery produces 650,000 liters a year on a 24/7 operation, employs 40 full-time staff, and works with more than 50 distributors globally. Beyond its own success, it has helped reinvigorate Islay's whiskey scene as the first new distillery to be built on the island in more than 120 years. While reaching the 20-year milestone is worthy of celebration, it comes amid a sea of challenges for the wider Scotch industry as sales stutter and job losses loom. Speaking ahead of an event to mark the distillery's anniversary, Anthony acknowledged the difficult conditions for Scottish whiskey makers, noting that Kilchoman itself has shelved planned capital investment to increase production capacity. However, he believes the storm will pass. We in the industry know we'll be back on track, he said. For us now, it's about keeping our heads down. The Distiller 1 of 1 auction returns on the 10th of October 2025. The Worshipful Company of Distillers and the Distillers Charity announced earlier in the year that the Distillers 1 of 1 auction will return for a third edition on Friday, the 10th of October. Hosted at the resplendent Hopetown House, widely considered to be one of Scotland's finest stately homes, this is an unmissable showcase of rare and remarkable Scotch whiskey. In partnership with Sotheby's, the Distiller's one-of-one auction brings together unparalleled collection of one-off, never-to-be-repeated Scotch whiskies from the distilleries across the length and breadth of Scotland, each lot showcasing the excellence and individuality of craftsmanship of Scotland's most stellar distilleries. Held biannually, the previous two auctions in 21 and 23 have together raised £4.3 million or $5.2 million for charity. We will be posting photos and information about the lots this coming week on our Instagram and Facebook sites. Actor Sam Heughan from the Netflix series Outlander, co-founder of the Sassenach Spirits, has acquired Crafty Distillery in the south of Scotland and rebranded it as Galloway Distillery. The distillery will be the spiritual home of Heughan's Sassenach brand, which he co-founded in 2021 with his business partner, Alexander Narosi. The distillery is where the brand's Sassenach Wild Scottish Gin was developed and produced. The brand's Sassenach blended Scotch whiskey will now also be produced at the distillery. Crafty Distillery also distilled the Hills and Harbor line of brands, which includes Hills and Harbor Gin, Hills and Harbor Distilled Gin Cocktail, and 24/7 Vodka. The Crafty name has disappeared following Heughan and Norosi's acquisition, but its Hill and Harbor spirits will continue to be produced at the Galloway Distillery. They will be integrated into the Galloway Distillery house of brands, sitting alongside the flagship Sassenach spirits. The distillery will play host to the first release of the Sassenach Finest Scottish Vodka, slated for November, and will also produce the Galloway Scotch Whiskey with a production capacity of 200,000 liters of pure alcohol per annum. Currently, it is producing a maximum 15,000 liters of pure alcohol for a special limited amount of single malt new make. The distillery also has an in-house bottling room capable of bottling 175,000 bottles a year. London-based spirits merchant Berry Brothers and Rudd has unveiled a set of 2 single malt whiskies inspired by the capital's last duel. The last duel of London is said to have taken place at the merchant's premises in Pickering Place on St. James Street. To commemorate the fabled duel, Berry Brothers and Rudd has launched a duel of single malt Scotch whiskies representing 2 sides of the story, justice and honor. The new release aims to explore the ambiguity of 2 intertwining narratives, with the spirits themselves providing distinct voices for each side of the story. Felix Deer, spirits curator of Berry Brothers Rudd, said, "Our position as an independent bottler allows us the rare opportunity to bring together 2 whiskeys that would never normally collide. The duel invites an extremely limited number of buyers to immerse themselves in a sensory exploration of the intersecting and contrasting narratives of both justice and honor and decide for themselves who triumphs." This exquisite relief offers opportunity to own 2 of the finest and rarest bottlings from Scotland's most coveted and contrasting whiskey regions. It is also a rare moment for collectors to step into Berry Brothers and Rudd's 327-year history themselves as a decision maker in London's last historic duel. Representing the factual retelling of the story, Justice is a 54-year-old Speyside single malt from an undisclosed distillery, distilled in 1970, bottled at 43.4% ABV. The expression offers aromas of golden honey, citrus peel, and seasoned oak, followed by notes of orange marmalade, apricot, and vanilla on the palate. Honor, representing the more romantic and poetic side of the event, is represented through a 34-year-old Lafroig single malt distilled in 1991 and drawn from a single hogshead at 43.3% ABV. The Islay single malt offers aromas reminiscent of a summer barbecue, with notes of soot and smoke. On the palate, the whiskey displays meaty notes, soft sugar, and coal dust. Lizzie Rudd, chair of Berry Brothers and Rudd, added, "With a tapestry as rich and enduring as Berry Brothers and Rudd, we have our fair share of stories. Over my time as chair, I've heard many wildly different versions of the story, with each one capturing the imagination. The duel is our way of bottling that intrigue. Both whiskeys are represented in hand-blown, lead-free crystal glass decanters crafted by the British maker Dartington Crystal. Honor features a mottled texture that enhances its smoky Islay profile, while Justice is adorned with flutes that emphasizes its Speyside character. The display case, crafted from eco-friendly jesmonite, highlights the contrast between Honor and Justice, with the former featuring a swirling texture, while the latter has a polished finish. A brass coin sits between them, symbolizing authenticity and referencing the tradition of dueling. Inspired by the ritual of duel, where opponents turn to face each other, the cabinet reflects that choreography. When closed, the decanters are in counterpose. As the doors open, they rotate 180 degrees, bringing the two spirits face to face. The duel is limited to 50 sets, available exclusively from Berry Brothers and Rudd, with a recommended retail price of £20,000 or $26,900. Diageo has named their 2025 special releases just in time for the holiday season. This selection of whiskeys were chosen by master blender Dr. Stuart Morrison. There are 8 new releases for the year. All are 700 mLs and bottled at cask strength. The expressions are as follows. A Talisker 14-year named Molten Seas. It is an island single malt bottled at 53.7 ABV and priced at $185 a bottle. An Oban 12-year named Heart of the Harbor. It is a Highland single malt bottled at 55.3% ABV and priced at $150 per bottle. Next is the Singleton of Glenord 17-year named Into the Blue. It is a Highland single malt bottled at 56.2% ABV and priced at $200 per bottle. A Lagavulin 12-year named Grains and Embers is an Islay single malt bottled at 56.4% ABV and priced at $180 a bottle. A Kleinlich 18-year named Waxen Sun. It is a Highland single malt bottled at 51.3% ABV and priced at $250 per bottle. A Rose Isle 14-year named Harmonic Grace. It is a Highland single malt bottled at 59.3% ABV and priced at $100. And I'm going to probably get this wrong, but please help me, correct me. A Delouane 21-year. Again, I apologize. I will never, hopefully I'll get these names down. But anyway, named Marble Treasure. It is a Speyside single malt, bottled at 54.8% ABV and priced at $500 per bottle. Buffalo Trace has filled their 9 millionth barrel of whiskey since Prohibition. Yes, the distillery announced earlier this week that it had filled its 9 millionth barrel of whiskey since Prohibition. The new million barrel milestone comes in the shortest interval yet, thanks to the decade-long $1.2 billion production expansion project that was finished earlier this year. The filling of our 9 millionth barrel represents a historic chapter in the distillery's story, which began more than 2 centuries ago and is still being written today, said Harlan Wheatley, Buffalo Trace Distillery Master Distiller. This milestone is exciting not just because we are producing more whiskey than ever before, but because every barrel filled ensures that generations to come will be able to enjoy the same quality and craftsmanship that has defined a distillery since the 1850s. As is the tradition, the new barrel will age at the Frankfort, Kentucky Distillery inside Warehouse V or 5. I'm not sure which one, but it says V, but it could be 5. The world's only single barrel warehouse. Visitors can see the celebrated barrel during tours. There are a bunch of new bourbon releases coming out in the near future. Here are a few of the highlights. Hat tip to bourbon obsessed. Angel's Abbey 10 Cask Strength, the brand's first age-stated release, arrives October 10th, exactly 15 years after its original planned debut. The original October release date was delayed, as Lincoln Henderson did not feel that the bourbon was ready. However, the date lives on every cork at Bar 10 at the Angel's Abbey Distillery. Aged cumulative 10 years in new American oak and port wine barrels and bottled at 122.6 proof, this whiskey was crafted by master distiller Owen Martin. Only 24,480 bottles will be available for a suggested retail price of $249.99. Larrikin Bourbon Company has announced its boldest release date, a 7-year-old American light whiskey, single barrel, cask strength, and bottled at a blistering 145 proof. That is hazmat territory, people. This limited release will debut at the Bourbon on the Banks on October 4th. With bottles available at the festival, the distillery, and online, and at select retailers on October 6th. Jack Daniel's Distillery has unveiled the distillery's Series Selection number 15, Sweet Mash Tennessee Straight Whiskey, a limited edition release highlighting the distillery's annual small run of sweet mash whiskey. Distilled from a mash bill of 80% corn, 12% malted barley, and 8% rye, it was barreled in 2016 and aged for nearly 9 years on the top floors of Track 2 barrel houses before being bottled at 117 proof, 58.5% ABV. It is available exclusively in Tennessee and at the White Rabbit Bottle Shop. The 375 milliliter bottle carries an MSRP of $45. Wild Turkey Distilling Company has unveiled the Master's Keep Beacon, the final chapter in its Master's Keep series. First launched in 2015, the collection has showcased the distillery's innovation and craftsmanship across 10 limited edition releases. Beacon is a 118-proof blend of 10-year-old bourbon distilled in 2015 by Bruce Russell and a 16-year-old bourbon distilled between 2007 and 2008 by Eddie Russell. Representing 2 generations of whiskey making, this accumulating release honors the distillery's past and future with collaboration between father and son duo of Eddie and Bruce Russell. The release is the highest proof in the series and will be available globally in limited quantities for a suggested retail price of $300. Booker's Bourbon has released its 3rd batch of the year, Jerry's Batch 25-03, in honor of Jerry Dalton, the only master distiller at the James B. Beam Distilling Company who is not a member of the Beam family. Dalton, originally a distillery chemist and close friend of Booker Noe, went to work at Beam and eventually took over as master distiller before Fred Noe assumed the role. Fred has shared that he owes most of what he knows about the science of their craft to Jerry. This batch is aged 7 years, 4 months, and 21 days, bottled at 124.7 proof, and carries an MSRP of $99. It was crafted from barrels produced on 7 different dates and aged across 9 warehouses. With this blend of batches and locations, Jerry's Batch brings together the microclimate conditions that these warehouses experience. Wheelhorse Whiskey has announced its fall 2005 limited release of Wheelhorse Cigar Blend Bourbon, a 5-year-old bourbon distilled at Green River Distilling Company in Owensboro, Kentucky, finished for a minimum of 8 months in a combination of port, cognac, sherry, and Armagnac barrels. Bottled at 101 proof, non-chilled filtered, and priced at $39.99 per bottle. 6,000 bottles are available. And I can tell you from personal experience that the Wheelhorse cigar batch, for the price, possibly the best cigar batch available for the price. Milo & Green has announced Guadalupe Bass Straight Bourbon, the second limited release in their 2025 Wildlife Collection, distilled in Kentucky, Texified in Blanco, Texas, and bottled at 125.1 proof, 62.55 ABV. This 7-year-old cask-strength bourbon was crafted from 3 selected barrels and honors the rare Guadalupe bass, found only in the rivers of the northern and eastern Edwards Plateau of Texas. Part of the series that now explores how hill country weather shapes whiskey. Proceeds from the release will support the Texas Parks and Wildlife Foundation. The bourbon will be available for $149 or $150 exclusively online and for pickup at the distillery beginning Wednesday, October 8th, 2025 at 3 p.m. Central Daylight Time. Their Ampersand Society members will receive early access with a password released at 10 a.m. Central Daylight Time. Bottles will be available for both shipping and distillery purchase. Brown & Forman has announced the return of its highly coveted King of Kentucky, now in its 8th year in bottle as a limited edition, single-barrel bourbon aged for 17 years. This year's release was drawn from 63 barrels personally selected by Master Distiller Emeritus Chris Morris from the 4th floor of Warehouse J and the 1st floor of Warehouse G. Distilled on 2 production dates in 2007. Proofs range from 124.4 to 135 proof. With only 5,000 bottles produced, each bottle is filled, bottled, wax dipped, and numbered by hand, and includes detailed information such as age, proof, warehouse location, lot number, and barrel number. The suggested retail price is $399 per bottle. And finally, Woodford Reserve has unveiled its first ever barrel strength rye, a pre-Prohibition style rye whiskey bottled at a robust 125.1 proof. Crafted by master distiller Elizabeth McCall from the distillery's traditional 53% rye mash bill, This bold expression delivers more pronounced spice and tobacco notes, layered with fruit, floral, and subtle sweetness. Bottled at batch strength rather than the standard 90.4 proof, the limited edition rye highlights the heritage of Americans' original rye whiskeys. It is available in 700 ml bottles for $129, with sales beginning October 2nd, 2025, online at the Woodford Reserve Distillery. In cigar news, Foundation Cigars celebrates its 10-year anniversary with an imposing double-tapered cigar. The double-tapered Aniversario cigars, measuring 7 inches long by 58 ring gauge at their fattest point, dark and imposing, these figurados are covered by a wrapper from Connecticut River Valley that company owner Nicholas Melillo says is a hybrid between broadleaf and Habano seeds. Underneath is a Brazilian Mazafina binder that holds together an entirely Nicaraguan filler blend, a combination of tobaccos from Esteli, Alapa, and Candega. The Nicaraguan components are grown by AJ Fernandez. The cigars are definitely at the higher end of pricing at $35 each, or $350 per box of 10. Foundation is only producing 2,000 of these boxes. An even more limited 20-count box geared towards collectors will also be released for $700. 750 boxes total. Both are adorned with a biblical image of St. George slaying a dragon. In pipe and tobacco news, McBaron, now produced by STG, has once again released its beloved Danish aromatic vanilla cream loose cut. The smooth Virginias are infused with a rich vanilla cream essence, offering a mellow, flavorful smoke with a famously inviting room note. A timeless favorite for those who enjoy creamy sweetness in every puff. It should be available wherever you buy your tobacco. Missouri Meerschaum have released 2 new cob pipes in time for fall weather. Maize Blue Shire celebrates autumn's glow year-round with Maize Blue corncob pipe. It's built for shared tiles by a firelight, priced at $39.99. And the Halloween pipe for 2025. This isn't just a pipe. It's a fleeting artifact of autumn, destined to vanish as the leaves fall. The bowl is stained pumpkin orange, evoking the harvest and twilight of autumn nights. Cornell and Diehl have released 2 new pipe blends, Carolina Red Flake with Perique and We Three Kings. Carolina Red Flake has been an annual release that always has Red Flake Virginias and sometimes has the addition of Perique. It is a perennial favorite and one of their most looked for blends. The 2025 edition of Cornell and Diehl's Carolina Red Flake with Perique is a masterful tribute to the United States' historic Old Belt growing region, featuring 2 exquisite Red Virginia grades alongside genuine St. James Parish Perique. Grown, harvested, cured, and barrel aged, all at 31 Farms, a single family-owned farm in the heart of St. James Parish, Louisiana. C&D's authentic Perique contributes unparalleled richness and complexity, ranging from deep stone fruit notes to bold, piquant spice. This rare varietal, the rarest in the world in fact, combines with several top-tier flue-cured grades, including Heirloom 2013 Mahogany Leaf from Virginia, 2017 Red Virginias from North Carolina, and matured 2019 Orange Leaf from Georgia. Together, these impeccable Virginia grades empower a kaleidoscope of complementary flavors, from baked goods and warming spices to brighter citrusy highlights, all elevated by 31 Farms Perique. We Three Kings is also an annual release that is aimed at a blend for the holiday season. It delivers a rich black Cavendish with red and bright Virginias and some specially sourced Catarini Turkish leaf. It is described as a magical holiday mixture that delights with notes of allspice, cinnamon, and vanilla. This comes in a 2-ounce tin, and the leaf is ribbon cut. Now, upcoming events. On October 8th, the Houston Scotch Whisky Society is hosting Julianne Hernandez from Bunnahabhain in their series The Depth of Dram No. 3 for a masterclass of the Bunnahabhain line. See the Houston Scotch Whisky Society on Facebook for details. On October 10th, at the Algiers Club in Dallas, they will also be hosting Julianne Hernandez for a masterclass of the Bunnahabhain line from 5 to 8 p.m. Go to www.thealgiersclub.com for more information. Also on October 10th, the Distillers 1 of 1 auction will be happening at Hopetoun House in South Queensbury, UK. This is a biannual auction that sees an amazing display of donations from distilleries all around Scotland, donating some of their rarest whiskey and or casks for a great charity, the Youth Action Fund. Sotheby's will be conducting the auction. Go to www.distillers1of1.com for more information. On October 11th, the 4th annual Texas Cigar, Wine, and Spirits Tasting will be held at Cigars International in Fort Worth from 6 to 9 p.m. Go to www.enthusiastreport.com for more information. On October 18th, Whiskey Riot will be held in Oklahoma City at the OKC Blue at the Cox Convention Center from 3 to 7. Cost for tickets are between $80 and $105. Go to www.whiskeyriot.com. And now we move on to our in-depth interview of the week. Robert Likarish of Ironroot Republic Distillery was kind enough to sit down with me and have a nice wide-ranging interview about the origin story of Ironroot, the 10-year history of the brand, status of the industry, and we may have had a sample of a few wonderful drams from Ironroot. Please enjoy. Okay, so we're here at Ironroot Distillery in Denison, Texas.
What's up, Chris? How's it going?
Robert, good to see you again. Robert Likarish with Ironroot.
The guy, one of the guys.
One of the guys, yes. Co-founder, correct?
Yes, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. So, if you don't mind, kind of just give us the rundown of Ironroot, story, your background, kind of how you want to do it.
All the fun stuff.
Exactly, yeah.
My brother, my mother, myself, we actually started Ironroot back in 2014. So we are an 11-year-old distillery, so small business owners, we're like, yeah, we did it. We survived.
Exactly.
It's been kind of a crazy ride because even before you start a distillery, obviously there's a ton of stuff that happens even before that.
Yes.
And which really kind of informs all the things that happen after you start the distillery.
Yeah.
And it's been a really fun ride.
Yeah.
So right now, I sit here and I look back because, at 10 years, you're just kind of like, wow, we've actually done some stuff. We got some time. We're not the new kids on the block anymore like we were when we first started.
Correct.
But I know Ironroot really started, it was kind of a fever dream of my brother, my dad, and myself. Back in 2008, we visited a small distillery up in Spokane, Washington.
Okay.
We were at a family reunion. We went to this Thai food restaurant. As we were walking out of this Thai food restaurant, in this same shopping center, this little tiny distillery had just opened up called Dry Fly Distilling.
Okay.
And
I have had some of their stuff.
Oh yeah, I remember the Triticale, and they do all sorts of really fun things. But my dad looked over at it, and my dad had been joking for years about when we retired, my brother and I should start a little brewery or a little winery. My dad had gotten into wine kind of at that point, and so we're like, all right, let's go check out this distillery. And before even leaving that distillery, I remember him turning to us and go no, not a winery. This is what you guys need to do. So fast forward a few years, I was getting ready to graduate from law school, and I decided I did not want to be a lawyer.
So real quick,
yeah.
So you had actually thought of doing a winery at first?
Yeah, definitely a winery.
Because you guys were here at the time already, right?
No, so even though we grew up most of our lives in Texas, Jonathan, my brother, was born in El Paso. I went to elementary school in Corpus Christi, middle school, high school in Amarillo, undergrad in Sherman, Texas at Austin College. My brother went to Texas Tech for undergrad. But then he and I both ended up going back up to St. Louis where my parents had moved. My senior year of high school, they actually moved, which was kind of crazy because my mom stayed with me in Amarillo. We had an apartment, so I was roommates with my mom for the last semester of my high school year.
As a senior, I'm sure that was.
It was crazy. It was really kind of great because my mom, she was going and checking on my grandma at the time we was in El Paso, and then trying to help my dad with the move.
Right.
So I was free on weekends most of the time. So yeah, it was great. But they had moved up to Illinois, and my brother and I actually had applied for grad schools up there. So that's where I went to law school, was at St. Louis University. My brother got his master's degree in biomedical engineering at St. Louis University, but also was working on a master's degree in mechanical engineering at WashU, which is also in St. Louis. So we were up there at the time. My dad had even actually gone as far as actually plant grapes in his backyard.
Wow.
They'd been growing them for a number of years. Because what was really crazy was growing up, my parents didn't really drink a lot. I remember wine at like Christmas and Easter and Thanksgiving. But other than that, like the only times I really remember my parents even drinking is like going to the beach when we lived in Corpus, and my dad bringing like Zimas or Tequiza. It was the thing I always give him a hard time about.
Yes.
But other than that,
Boone's Farm.
Exactly,
Yes,
more or
yes,
less.
yes, right.
But other than that, I didn't really see them really drinking a whole lot. It wasn't until I went to college, I came back, and they had bought a kegerator and had a keg of Belgian ale.
Okay.
And I was like, where in the world did this come from? Like, it wasn't like Bud Light, it was Belgian ale. And next thing I know, they had started going to wine tastings, and so they had started building up a little bit of a wine collection. And that's when that my dad started talking about, we should start a little winery when we grew up, I guess if you will.
Yes. Very cool.
So all that had kind of just bubbled into, and during that time period too, my dad had found my like great grandfather's journal, which is crazy because it was half written in Croatian, half in English. So kind of dissecting that was really interesting. But he actually had a recipe for wine and recipe for beer in there. And so we went to a little craft brew shop to try to like get the things to remake the beer. Yeah. And of course, they didn't make 99% of the things he was using anymore. But we did the best to kind of piece together, and we made some. It was all right beer, I guess. Yeah. But yeah, we were pretty terrible at it. That first
Likarish
brewing
101
was not the best. Was not the best. But all that again flooded into the distilling.
Yes. So after you came out of the Thai food, and then went over there. And then he said,
"This is what you guys should do.
You should go distillery."
So kind of stuck in the back of our heads. We're like, "Yeah, no, this would be really cool." Yeah. And so you fast forward another few years. Again, I was into, I guess, my last year of law school, and I had worked at some law firms, and just in doing that, I realized this is not really the thing for me.
Been there, done that. I've done a few different things myself.
Yeah. We jump from one thing to another.
Exactly.
And so I remember I was like, all right, I'm going to tell my parents I'm going to graduate from law school, but I don't want to practice law. And I figured the best time to tell them would be at Christmas dinner. Because that's like the time of like, Mom can't get too mad at me at the Christmas dinner table because it's supposed to be joyous and fun and family. So I kind of let loose that bombshell. And I just remember going like dead quiet, and my mom just taking like a big hit of wine, and my dad being the one that's always trying to like make peace in the family and make sure everyone's going. Just kind of cracked over. He's like, "Well, what are you gonna do? You gonna go start that distillery?" I was like, "Yeah. I'm young. I'm dumb right now. I can eat ramen noodles every night if I need to. Like, why wait till I'm 65, 70 years old to try to make something that takes 10 or 20 years to make?
Correct. Yes.
Let's do it now."
Yeah.
So.
That's a big leap.
Yeah, I mean,
that's great.
You got to be you got to be a little bit dumb to get into this. I think it's one of those things. I think 90% and 99% of distillers, if you knew everything you were going to go through before you got into it, you probably wouldn't have done it.
Right.
But I mean, I tell you what, I'm glad I did it. I don't know if I would have had the stones to do it had I known, but
there's the arrogance of youth.
Yes, 100%.
There you go.
Ignorance is bliss, as they say sometimes. And to say, hey, yeah, we can make world-class whiskey, not knowing anything really about it. Like, it's pretty, I know. So it's so I remember doing that, and my parents were like, okay, and my brother just looked at me and he was like, well, if you're doing it, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And his wife was just kind of sitting there looking at him like, what?
What?
So, the deal was struck that as long as we came back to Texas to start the distillery here, because her family was here, then we could.
So she's from Texas.
Yeah, she's from Rowena, Texas.
Okay.
So as long as we came back to Texas, we could do it. So next thing I know, we start like, all right, how are we going to do this? We got to put together business plans. We got to figure out how to distill. Where do we even go to learn to distill? And that just kind of put us on a lot of paths all at once.
Yes.
That last semester of law school, I spent working on business planning, kind of figuring out where are the small craft distilleries in the country and what are they doing, what's working. And and just started kind of piecing things together. Again, a lot of it was borrowed from the kind of the craft beer model. I remember listening to a lot of the guy who started Sierra Nevada. His biography was really fascinating and really instrumental and helpful, and kind of me even piecing together kind of like what we were going to do, how we're going to do it.
In his book, I haven't read it, so did he go through like some of the pitfalls that he did?
Yeah.
Okay, so
you look, and he was starting stuff back in the 70s,
right?
So there was
like the guy, who was the guy in Boston with Sam Adams.
Sam Adams, yeah,
that guy.
Same
kind of a thing, right?
Same kind of thing. Okay. Where he was starting out and was like, I got to piece together equipment because there wasn't people making equipment, so he was buying like
there was, but it was
massive size.
Yeah, industrial.
So he had to go. He got milk making equipment and like redid all the sanitary. So it was, I don't know, it was fun. It was really cool listening to him, but it was really inspiring.
No, you said milk making equipment, and I've been here a few times and helped you guys bottle. And if I remember right, you guys have some equipment in back that was old milk making equipment.
Betsy, she's back there.
There you go.
Oh yeah,
lessons learned.
Exactly.
There you go. Okay. Please continue.
So that was kind of like that last semester was kind of working on that. That spring break, I remember Mom was like, "All right, well we're going to Kentucky." Yeah. So we went, and our plan was to go visit like the Kentucky Whiskey Trail because we figured, let's go see where the big distillery is, what they're doing. So we started and we were in St. Louis, so St. Louis to Kentucky really isn't that horrible. Far.
Yeah.
So we started driving, and on the way there, I was looking up kind of again where all the craft distilleries were. There's one in Indiana just outside of Louisville. Okay. You've probably heard of Starlight.
Yes. Yeah.
So at the time, he hadn't made any whiskey yet.
Okay. But they were just starting up also.
They were doing brandy at the time.
Okay. So they were already distilling.
They were already distilling, but they weren't making whiskey really yet.
Okay.
And so I remember I was like, okay, well, let's stop in there. And it's absolutely beautiful if you ever get a chance. Because
I was there just in June or July, sorry. And
so you
it is very, very beautiful, yes.
So just driving out there. And I remember Ted, his wife was at the tasting room. We walked in, we're looking at starting distillery. And he was actually the head of the ADI at the time, which was the American Distilling Institute. And so he went and met with us, sat down with us for probably 2 hours, and we just talked through everything. And at the end, he was like, "Why are you guys going on the Kentucky Bourbon Trail?" I'm like, "Because we want to see all the big distilleries." And he's like, "Well, that's not what you guys are going to be doing. Like, if you're doing this, you need to go visit all the small distilleries." So we kind of immediately started changing all of our plans, although we already had a hotel for that night in Louisville. So we went there, and while we were there, we're like, all right, let's swing into Vendome, check that out, which is a crazy story of Mom accidentally signing up for a still while we were there, which paid off years later. But
thank you, Marcia.
But yeah, it was a great, wonderful trip, visited a lot of distilleries, and that was kind of the big eye-opening thing is like, there is so much we don't know.
Yeah, sure.
Then from there, started signing up for classes, and ultimately ended up doing a class with a master cognac distiller named Hubert Germain Raban, and his apprentice Nancy Fraley was kind of helping him out at the time.
I think hopefully most people know Nancy.
You should have heard her name by now.
Yeah, she's got a fairly good nose and palate.
She's got a pretty good pedigree of distilleries she's worked with over the years.
Just a few good ones there.
So,
including yours.
Including you guys. 100%.
Yes.
And that's where I met Nancy, was at that class.
Excellent.
And through that class, formed a really great friendship with both her and Hubert, and that kind of really led to, learning more and really diving into the cognac side of things. And that was, obviously became very instrumental to what we do. During that time period, also went and took a class at Koval in Chicago. Okay. We actually did a week of production up at Dry Fly Distilling in Washington. Yep. Went up there, spent a week with them. And that was kind of using all these experiences and the time and just talking with Hubert to kind of really formulate how are you going to do what we were going to do. The guys at Balcones were extraordinarily helpful. Even talked.
This is pre-Diageo, though. Yes.
Oh, way before.
Yeah.
They were still under the bridge at the time.
Okay.
This is to kind of put this in perspective. When I was down there, running around with them, they hadn't even released single malt yet.
Okay.
So
they were truly still doing their rye.
It was just Baby Blue. That was the
Baby
only
Blue.
product.
Okay.
They had, I think. They were getting ready to release True Blue.
Okay.
At the time. Yeah, I mean it was a fun wild time, man.
Yeah.
Very early
we're
on.
talking at that time probably what 11, 12? 10, 11, 12?
Yeah, it's going to be like 10, 11.
Yeah.
Okay. So they're a year or two into it, really.
2010, 2011.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Good. Crazy. But yeah, so, and just kind of learn, the Balcones stuff, really seeing what was going on in Texas. How are things, how is aging really occurring? What do things taste like? Which even more fueled our conversations more with Hubert of like, well, what can we do and how can we be true to kind of what he taught us, but also deal with the things we were going to deal with in Texas.
Correct.
So,
which is challenges all on its own. Yes?
100%.
Yeah,
I mean, every area has its own challenges and issues, but it is quite unique compared to Kentucky or even compared to France. It's a very unique environment for maturation and making stuff. So, and that was kind of like all the things that kind of went together to us, like learning from all these different people who were doing things, spending time with Hubert.
Yeah.
And then we finally kind of felt like it was time to strike out on our own. We started looking at towns all across Texas to start the distillery in. And, it was funny because, you go back, 12, 13 years ago, the blue laws were pretty hot and heavy at the time still.
So just a little background on me. I moved to Texas in 97 down in Georgetown. And down there wasn't as blue, let's put it that way. Yeah. But then we moved up here to Allen in 2002. Yeah, you still had to join the clubs. You still had to in Collin County. Yeah, so I'm sure it was even more so up here in Grayson.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at, I remember like when I was at Austin College, I remember my senior year, Sherman finally passed it where you could buy beer and wine.
Okay.
But most of my college, you had to actually drive up to Dennis to get alcohol because it was the only wet town between here and Dallas.
Really?
Yeah, you had to go out to like Denton in that area, or you had to go down to like Dallas, or it was Denison.
Because Collin at the time was
completely dry.
Totally dry.
Yeah.
I mean,
we had restaurants, but
that's right. Yeah. But you still had to join the clubs, and no beer, no wine in the grocery stores, no beer and wine in the convenience stores.
Yeah.
So and then I remember that. Yeah, about turn of the 2000, they changed it in Collin County, something like that.
Yeah, they started changing it, and you start seeing little pockets of wet things start popping up.
But there's still
a couple. There's still
areas
dry,
that are dry.
Oh, yeah,
exactly.
Which is weird. It's weird to me now to like driving into them, but yeah, I mean, even when we first started, we had to change update some of the laws in Denison even,
right.
And then I remember Sherman went wet fully, and then you had McKinney just recently went fully wet,
right.
And you had Allen wasn't wet yet. It was Plano, I think, was the closest.
Yep.
But yeah, which is still crazy.
Exactly. Okay, so you picked Denison.
Yeah, so picked Denison. We ended up picking Denison for
a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
Please do go into that. So that's an interesting part of your story.
So Denison got suggested initially by one of my college professors. She was like, they have this kind of crazy wine history up in Denison. And I remember hearing stuff about it when I was in college, but it didn't really click. But it turns out Denison is actually sister cities with Cognac.
Okay.
And so when we started,
was that already established?
Before us, that was already established.
Okay. So that's interesting.
It had been that way, and so we were looking at that, and we're like, that's kind of a cool thing. And when we started diving into the history, we're like, how could we not be in Denison? Is what it turned into.
Yeah.
So for those of you guys who don't know, so wine history in the U.S. and Europe is kind of crazy and very, very intermixed. Back kind of in the mid to late 1800s, here in Denison, there's a gentleman whose name was T.V. Munson. He was a viticulturist, so someone who studied growing grapes. And kind of at that point in American history, we didn't have this giant, robust wine industry here. One of the big reasons was the grapes that are native to North America just really aren't suitable for making European-style wines. It's really
more
great.
Like Concord grapes, right? Basically.
Yeah,
it's like
jams or jellies are kind of funky for out there style wine, but when it came to making Spanish or French or Italian style wines, they just really aren't suitable for that. So the Europeans, they continued to move over here to North America, just started bringing their own grapevines over.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we have all these bugs and all these plant diseases here they didn't have in Europe. Sure. So they would plant their grapes, and then a lot of times after a few years, they would die off. which for winemaking isn't great because
you don't want to keep replanting your vines.
No, because even to start to get grapes you can make wine with, the vine has to be at least 3 years old.
Right.
It's not living that long. You're not making a whole hell of a lot of wine. So, that's where kind of TV Munson and some of his early compatriots kind of stepped in. Like, we got to figure out how we can get these grapes to grow here. So, the first idea they had was just to kind of crossbreed grapes together. They figured the European grapes have the flavors, the American grapes have all the resistances. We'll just get the best of both worlds. So TV Munson started breeding grapes and created over 300 different varieties of grapes. Which is nuts. They still have 40 of them over at the viticulture school about 5 miles from here. Some really, really goofy ones because he made a lot of what I would call Frankenstein grapes. They're really,
You've told me about a few of them, but please continue because I'd love for them to hear about them too.
So my favorite one out there, I'll just say that one it's called Green Giant. The grapes, I kid you not, are nearly the size of my fist. You get like 2 or 3 grapes per bunch. That's it. The grapes have really thick skin on them, giant seeds in the middle, and they taste absolutely terrible. So, it's one of those things that they exist, but they don't really serve a whole lot of a purpose. So ultimately, he kind of went back to the drawing board, and through his research, what he noticed was, though, that there was this grape that was native here in Texas. It actually grew in really similar soils to a lot of the French grapes. So he figured that maybe there could be some compatibility when it came to grafting, which the reason why that was so appealing is because where the diseases were getting, where the bugs were attacking was all in the root systems. So if you could fortify that, probably get the rest of the plant to grow pretty well. So over the course of a decade, he developed a really unique way to actually graft these French grapes on top of these Texas grape roots.
And this is in the 1800s. Right. So okay.
This is 1800s. This is late 1800s.
So they're figuring this stuff out even then.
It's it's slowly but surely figuring out how these things work and how we can get these things to go. And he was able to get these grapes to start growing, which was really great because we started being able to grow these French grape varietals here in the United States. So it's when you started seeing stuff like Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, and Merlot really start taking off here in North America. Fortunately for our friends in Europe, though, we had with the invention of the steam engine, travel between North America and Europe became much faster. So all of a sudden, all these bugs that used to be able to survive that trip, now we're surviving it.
Because it would only take a week or 2 at the most.
Instead of months. And so all of a sudden, we just started peppering Europe with all these bugs. And one of the things that made its way over was that little aphid phylloxera. And when I got over there, it didn't have any natural predators and just kind of went to town. And in less than a decade, it wiped out close to 80% of the French grapes. We're talking Bordeaux, Burgundy, Cognac, Champagne. All those areas were essentially decimated.
Alarm bells.
They freaked out quite a bit.
Well, that's their livelihood. Absolutely.
For generations, it's been their livelihood. So they started scouring the planet, trying to find solutions. And through the Smithsonian, they found this crazy dude here in Denison, Texas. Next thing you know, we start shipping them these Texas grape roots. And to this day, they grow actually a lot of their native varietals on top of the descendants of these Texas grapes.
Amazing. That is truly amazing.
So it's kind of crazy. So for that reason, Denison and Cognac became sister cities. TV Munson was named to the French Legion of Honor. And for us, what's been really cool is over the years, the mayor from Cognac, a lot of the master distillers have actually come here on a pilgrimage.
Nice.
And we've been here, they come hang out with us.
Not too, that's okay.
I am not complaining. We'll distill together and we talk about like product as it's going out with the still and how to run the stills. And then we'll go back in the barrel warehouse. We start testing barrels and, once they've got enough, they start inviting us to go hang out with them in Cognac.
Darn.
Yeah. It's the worst part of the job.
Exactly right.
So what's been really cool is over the years we've had the opportunity to go back over to Cognac and distill over there and even kind of further learn from different master distillers of kind of what they do and kind of how they do it.
Now, I want to make sure everybody understands. So the gentleman who helped you learn a lot, his name again, I apologize.
Hubert Germain Raban.
And he is a Cognac maker, correct?
Yeah, he was I think he's going to shoot me. He was either 14th or 16th generation Cognac distiller.
So that I just want to tie everything together. So that's where you picked Denison.
Yeah,
I mean,
so-
it's just cognac sister city. It just made sense.
Well, we figured if we're going to use cognac techniques for making whiskey,
Right.
we might as well be in the city that has
Absolutely.
that kind of close connection. It just
Correct.
felt right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely.
But-
okay, so you landed here in Denison, and you're still figuring out. Okay,
What happened? So,
there's still a lot to do.
yeah, so
Right.
I remember, because we were leaving Hubert for kind of, to really dig in here. He left us with two kind of really big questions, which was, boys, what is Texas whiskey like right now, and what is Texas brandy like?
Right.
And again, this is circa 2010, 2011. So the answer to the brandy question was really easy. It was like, Hubert, there's actually no such thing as Texas brandy.
But there really was nobody making brandy, right?
No,
Okay.
no.
Okay.
I mean, I think we saw some vague references to Spanish missionaries trying to make it, but
Okay.
that's pretty much it.
Okay. But I mean, at current time.
Current time, it
literally nobody
had been
making brandy.
decades since
Okay.
anyone even attempted.
Okay.
So we were like, okay, well, we're going to get to Texas. We'll find some grapes. We'll use what you taught us. We'll start making some cognac-style brandies.
Excellent.
As far as Texas whiskey went, really, you look back at the time, we had Balcones Baby Blue and we had Garrison Brothers Bourbon,
Yes.
which, ever had those two whiskeys, they don't taste anything alike.
No, true.
They're made two completely different ways from two completely different products. So it was like, all right, Hubert, there's not a historic way of making whiskey in Texas.
Right.
The examples we have are two really different things. So Hubert, if you were going to go to Texas and you were going to try to start making whiskey, like, where would you even start?
Correct.
And that's when he said probably the most French thing he could have to us at the time, which was, boys, just stick with the terroir and you'll be fine. Which the term terroir, what it means is flavor of the land. So essentially he was like, just make it taste like Texas and you'll be fine. Which obviously is a very bold statement to make. Again, and I tell this story all the time. I'll never forget. My brother is the snarky one out of the two of us. His response back to Hubert was like, Hubert, I don't know if brisket flavored whiskey is going to work out for us super well. And I was like,
True.
oh, Lord,
Brisket,
brother.
mesquite. Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Oh.
Wow.
So when we started looking at it, we're like, okay, well, if we're going to like terroir, that's where we want to start. So we started looking at, okay, historically in the wine industry, what do they really mean when they use that term? And really what it's referring to is when you grow grapevine in a certain type of soil, in a certain climate, it makes the grape taste a very specific way.
Sure.
So for us, we're like, all right, well then let's focus on local agriculture. Let's see what's growing around us. We'll start with that and kind of see where it takes us. So that summer we drove all around Grayson County, and if you drive up and down 75 this day, you see the same thing we did over a decade ago, which was corn.
Corn. Absolutely.
And we're like, corn, perfect. With
Well,
corn, okay.
You're probably actually lucky that that was the case, because 100 years ago here, all you would have seen is what?
Saw a lot of wheat 100 years ago.
Cotton.
There's a cotton. There's also a lot of red corn, which was kind of crazy.
Yeah, but a lot of cotton up
Yeah.
here in North Texas. Yeah. But anyway, sorry.
And then it all moved to the Panhandle, which
Correct. Yes.
yeah,
Once they figured out they could drill down to the Agalula or whatever is it, the
Yeah,
aquifer, and
up there,
and
then-
put pivots in, and
it made it way easier for
yes,
them.
exactly. You grow almost anything up there now. Yeah.
That's why you see a lot of grapes up there.
Yes. Okay, so you
So we started
corn.
Saw corn. We're like, all right, perfect. With corn, we can make corn whiskey. We can make bourbon. But they already do a really amazing job of making those things in Kentucky and in the Midwest. So we're like, all right, well, how do we make this thing, this bourbon, but make it distinctively the Texan from Denison from us, and not just like cheap knockoffs of Kentucky bourbon.
Right.
So we started sitting down and kind of pondering. And so my brother's idea was like, well, we were top of this cognac distiller. What if we kind of look at the process from making bourbon, and we kind of infuse it, kind of do a unique twist based on what we're taught from cognac to that kind of process? Because bourbon and cognac are made fairly different ways. So if we took some of this cognac and just kind of infused it a little bit at each stage, by the time we got to the end, we should end up with something that's kind of distinctively our own. It's like, I love it, but where in the world do we start?
Right.
And so, I mean, obviously, you start with the mash bill, the recipe used for making the whiskey. So I was like, well, Jonathan, how are we going to make it our own? I mean, other than using local grain, what are we going to do? And so his idea was like, okay, well, you look at bourbon by law has to be at least 51% corn.
Correct.
The other 49% of the grains can be anything you want them to be. But traditionally up in Kentucky, you're going to have a little bit of barley, and then it's either going to be wheat or rye.
Correct.
It's that flavoring grain.
Right.
So my brothers are like, well, let's come up with our own flavoring grain that's kind of grown from here historically, and then that can kind of be our own kind of unique thing. So I was like, okay, well, what was growing here historically that we could even use? So he went through 100 years worth of agriculture, and as you mentioned earlier, there was a lot of cotton that was being grown here. But it was also once we started getting like 50 years ago and a little bit further back, what was really unique is when we saw corn being grown, it wasn't just yellow dent corn. We saw things like brown corns and red corns being grown. My brother was like, well, right?
That's actually pretty interesting.
Yeah, really different.
Yeah.
And so we're like, okay, well, wonder if those taste different than yellow corn. Especially having tasted the blue corn from Balcones, we knew that was really unique and really different. So the thought was maybe that corn's a little bit like grapes.
Yeah.
In effect, if you use different species, you can get really different flavors.
Yes.
So, but when we were looking at the species that we're growing, we're like, we have no idea if those taste different or similar, or what the deal is with them. So it's kind of put us down this really crazy path of this last decade of distilling a lot of different species of corn. Okay. We started with ones that we saw some historical records of being grown here, and then our ADD got a hold of us, and we started going even outside of that. We've distilled stuff from all over the world now.
Yep.
It's been really fun to kind of play around with that.
That's very cool.
But that was kind of where we started on kind of making something that was kind of uniquely different, was with that corn and that mash bill. From there, we kind of moved on. We're like, okay, well, the next step, what can we do? Well, bourbon typically has a fairly short fermentation period. Usually most distilleries are 3 to 4 days. Maybe shortest I've seen is 48 hours, but really about 60 hours is about right for most places. But it's really different than fermenting wine. Even a lot of beer is actually fermented for a lot longer than that. Okay. So we're like, okay, well, let's do a longer term fermentation. Yep. So we implemented it's like a 6.5, 7 day fermentation. We do a little bit warmer temperature than what they do in Kentucky, just because we like development of esters. We want those to be a little bit higher than what you would typically get with just keeping things really cold. So that was kind of where we started with kind of the mashing side. Okay. Also use a little bit different style yeast than what you'd see in Kentucky. Not cognac yeast, but a little bit different style yeast. And so we started okay, that was great. So that's kind of a unique, different thing for us. Now you can see the new fermenters that just get put in. Yes. But then we're like, okay, well, the next stage, all right. Now after fermentation, we got to get to distillation, and that's where we're like. So one thing that we've been very passionate about since we started was the use of pot stills. Yes. Also, we've got a number of different styles of still here. We make products with a variety, whiskey distilled in a variety of different stills. But we knew one of the things that we really wanted to make was pot still. It's true to cognac. It's different, obviously, than what Kentucky, at least post 1930 Kentucky. Yes. And it has a very, very different flavor of spirit than what column still does. Yes. So we went to that. We used some of that kind of cognac knowledge of how they run their stills, and we kind of integrated into the distillation style of what we do. Again, making it your own. Because again, I mean, there are now, from what I gather, there are definitely people using pot still. Oh gosh, more of the craft guys. And we weren't the first by any means. Don't get me wrong. Balcones has been using pot still forever. Okay, but they weren't making bourbon at the time, right? No. I mean, I think there had been a small amount of bourbon made there, but that wasn't a focus of what they were doing. And I guess Garrison Brothers, same thing. They were probably using a pot still at the time. They use a hybrid. Now it's still pot still, but a little bit different. With a like that guy right there. That. Yes. Mm-hmm. And I had seen a few others that had done it. And so, but it was one of those things that was really intriguing. But it felt more true to who we are and kind of how we run it. So that's why we ended up going that direction on it. And I'm glad you did. Yeah, me too. So yes, very cool. So obviously that's the distillation style. It's a little bit different that we're going to do. Again, we do a little bit deeper cuts. We do a couple things that are a little bit saucy for a distillery to do. You're your own secret sauce. Exactly. Absolutely. Oh, yeah. And then obviously we started putting things into oak. One of the things we did really early from the very beginning, essentially, was we have a lot of use of European oak here at Ironroot. That's one of the things obviously different than Kentucky. They use mostly American oak.
Sure.
About 30% of our barrels are going to be European oak. So another, about 20% are going to be pure European oak. About another 30 will be a hybrid American European oak.
Anything that obviously goes into the European oak cannot be called bourbon.
Oh yeah, it can.
It can.
Oh yeah.
I didn't realize. I thought it had to be.
That's what they tell you. That's what they tell you in Kentucky.
Really?
It just
has to be
just oak.
Just oak. Well, learned something new.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's the fun lawyer on the regs. So if no, it's just as oak.
Just as oak.
Now, what's interesting too, the regs it's a brand new charred oak container.
It doesn't mean it's a barrel.
Doesn't necessarily have to be a barrel.
And can it literally just you could pour it through it?
You could
have it sit there a second and come out, and it could be bourbon.
So that's another kind of misnomer that a lot of people say. It's like, it has to age 2 years. That's for straight bourbon has to age 2 years. Yes. But bourbon in general doesn't have to. You can literally have a hole in one end of a barrel, and as long as you're constantly pouring through it, then it's technically still a new barrel. The moment you stop pouring, then the barrel's used. You can't do it anymore. But you could theoretically just pour straight through the barrel, and it would be bourbon. Now, I wouldn't suggest it. I would suggest that. Wouldn't be my method, no. But yeah, you could technically do that.
Might as well just give them some White Dog, right?
Yeah. So you don't need the middleman. Just go straight to the source at that point.
Exactly. Yes.
But yeah, so oak usage is gonna be a little bit different.
So you use you said about 30%.
About 30% is going to be a hybrid of the American and Euro. It uses both types of wood in the barrel. About 20% are going to be pure European oak, and then about 48% is going to be pure American oak, and about 2% will be different types of French oak.
Now, do you get those barrels from Europe directly, or do you get them made here in the States?
So most of our barrels are going to be made directly here in the States. Like Cooperage is like Independent Stave, and those guys, they buy lots of oak from Europe and bring it over here, yard age it here, do everything.
Kind of exactly what they do for Scotch, like I said, American oak to Spain if they want to do some PX casks.
Yes,
stuff like that. Make the barrels and American oak,
season
them with sherry, dump it, send them to Scotland.
100%.
Okay, got it.
So that's so it's kind of a fun part about it. You have a little bit different. So obviously different types of oak that we're using is going to be a little bit unique, especially when we first started. I mean, that was before makers even started doing their thing with any of this stuff. Like, we've been using European oak from the very beginning, and part of it was because we had to.
Right.
One of the interesting things is when we first started, there was the first barrel shortage that happened. And for Independent Stave to even sell us any American oak whatsoever, we had to buy a bunch of European oak. And we're like, all right, let's test out. And we fell in love with it. Yeah. And so that's why it's still a huge part of what we do.
Very good.
So that's kind of a fun part. Another thing that's really unique on the barreling side is we use very low-level char. Char 1, typically some sort of heavy toast to it. Now, our first order that we did, we ordered a huge variety of things. We had everything from Char 1, different toast profiles, to Char 2, Char 3, and Char 4.
Yeah, because you're figuring it out.
You don't know what's going to work.
You don't know what's going to work, exactly.
So we played around with it, and we fell in love with the very low chars. Now, some of that's a little bit of that cognac thing coming in and being part of who we are.
Because they don't...
No charring whatsoever.
It's all toasting, right? Just toasting. Okay. Which is obviously, even the wine guys really just do toasting.
Yeah, it's that same thing that they're going to do together on that. And so for us, and it works out really well, and we can get into some of the science on why we like it, particularly for this environment. If we were in a different environment, we would probably do something very different, but for this environment, it worked really great. And we started out using 53-gallon barrels, but actually after about four-ish years into distilling, we actually decided to move up barrel sizes. So we actually, really weird distillery, we use 65-gallon barrels for the most part.
Now, is that a standard size elsewhere?
Yeah, in Europe, it's going to be it's a 240-liter barrel in Europe. And you'll see a lot of cognac and a lot of wines will use 240-liter.
Going back to what I understand.
Yeah, kind of that wine side of us. Sure. And that's interesting enough, even like Independent Stave, their wine side is actually the side that makes our barrels for us because we use larger formats and we do different charring and toasting.
They would have to almost retool to build your barrels on the spirit side or whiskey side, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Right.
So super fun, and again, we'll play around with. So we've got some kind of custom crazy barrels that we'll do, but that's kind of the unique on that. Then we get into the maturation, and we've talked a lot about, since I know you've been up here many times. Sure. I don't know if I broke that secret on that.
No, it's all good. People know.
It's a process we call it's called élevage. It's a French technique, and it's really about individual barrel care, essentially, which is kind of a weird thing to say. It's very much focusing on a barrel, seeing what flavors that individual barrel is developing, and then catering conditions and environment for that barrel to kind of become the best version of itself. Excellent. From being in cooler, calmer areas, if it's a really soft, sweet, or a fruitier barrel, to more aggressive areas if we want to be a big, oaky, spicy barrel. Also controlling proof in barrels. So some barrels will let go up to 130-something, 153 proofs. Right. Technically the highest one we've ever had is 160.
Yeah.
We don't typically let them go that high, but some barrels will keep at 110, 112 proof in cask.
Sure.
So it's really, just individually, because different personalities need different things.
How soon in the maturation process do you actually figure out what a barrel is going to do?
I'd say about a year and a half. Now, sometimes we'll start tasting it a little bit before that, but really about a year and a half when the baby fat kind of starts melting away. Right. You can kind of start seeing, are you going to be a little snarkier of a barrel or a little sweeter, cuddlier barrel? You can kind of see what they start doing at that point.
Have you noticed that different, or they act different depending on if it was distilled maybe, let's say, in the spring versus in the fall?
You have some differences that will exist in there, especially kind of fruit profiles you can kind of see. Yeast, again, the environment here is a little bit different. Sure. Barometric pressure is different. There's so many things that impact that at the end of the day. So there is slight differences between like winter and spring as far as distillation periods. But really, the biggest difference we see from them, we'll have same barrels with the same runs, even though they have like the core, like very similar flavor. Yeah. It's that kind of outer personality will be quite a bit different. So from the same run, we could have a really spicy barrel or a really sweet barrel. Got it. If you remember Violet Beauregard, her brother barrels were not fruity barrels at all. Right. Didn't really have that profile whatsoever. Right. And so you just see kind of like even from the exact same run off the still, sometimes barrels just do little different things. Exactly. They behave a little bit differently.
I got you. Very cool. Very cool. Because I would imagine that a barrel maybe distilled in the fall has a winter underneath of it, then a spring, and then the summer. Whereas maybe something distilled in the spring, it's going right into summer here. Yeah. And in Texas, it's much different than. It's.
So we do see small differences on that side, and it generally has to do with the differences. Typically, I will tell you from our experience is the winter barrels tend to be mature at a little bit earlier period of time, whereas the summer barrels that
is directly opposite of what I would think.
Yeah, you would figure into the oak right at the beginning.
Away,
and there's certain parts of them obviously that are really like that part will start some of that process a bit earlier. What we found is that allowing spirit to have a little more oxygen permeate into it, especially with the pot still distillate, column still is going to be very different on this aspect. Yep. With pot, because you have so much more esters, precursor esters, there's so much more of those things in it. That's the part of the process that typically lags behind a little bit. But when spirit is cooler, it's more oxygen permeable. So a lot of your oxidative reactions or reactions that take place in the presence of oxygen will start happening at a little bit more rapid rate in the winter than they do during the summer. Okay. So that's the part that we see that typically needs its most development. Whereas the oak, obviously raw oak is very apparent and can be very obnoxious. But once you get kind of 2-ish years in barrel, that starts to kind of mellow down. Got it. Really about 2.5 to 3 is where we start seeing it really kind of come under control, regardless of its summer or winter distillation. Now, a little bit earlier on the summer distillations, but as I said, just different parts are starting to mature a little bit faster. Or starting that maturation a little bit earlier, different parts.
I gotcha. No, that's great. So put it in the barrel, and then you guys have. I mean, how many square feet back there was it originally?
It's about 4,500 square foot back there.
Right behind us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Or behind you.
Mm-hmm.
But you've recently had a new rick house built, or I guess what you guys are calling it? I mean,
warehouse. I mean, there's not technically ricks in it, but
true. That's true.
You'll catch me calling it rick house or warehouse or barrel house. Like I use all
barrel
the terms.
house. I guess it could be called a barrel house, right? Yeah.
They all mean the same thing at the end of the day, really.
Right.
But
that's true. Ricks are.
But if you wanted to get technical, I guess
barrel house, warehouse would be more apropos. Yeah.
Yeah. More technically more accurate, I guess.
Yes.
But,
right.
Yeah.
No, that's cool. So that is what that. I mean, you guys just got in there end of July.
Yeah. I mean, we're a month and a half in there now.
Yeah.
So,
and the last time you and I went back there, you guys have already have quite a few barrels already in there.
Oh, yeah, you should see it. We had 200 more barrels show up this morning. Got another 200 barrels coming tomorrow.
Right.
And another 200 the week after.
Yeah.
So,
and a lot of that stuff is just going to go into, you guys make a product called, it's now called assemblage, right?
So we have assemblage, was sleight of hand bourbon, and rye. Also the St. Sally products. We use a lot of source. Looking 80 to 90% of those whiskeys will be source liquid. So yeah, that's where a lot of those barrels will end up.
But you are using obviously some of your juice in it.
There's not anything that leaves here without having our liquid in it.
Right.
It's Jonathan and Chris like to refer to it as like a roux.
Right.
That it gives you a little more richness in the spirit just because it's heavier, oilier. A lot of times I have a little more oak that'll pull to it. So because it's funny, we pull 6, 7, even some of the 10-year-old bourbon.
Yeah.
It's very, very light colored, very, very light on the oak. And
the stuff that's come in. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, compared to our, like the stuff that's been here for years.
Absolutely. And that's even with only, like you said, with only a one level char.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Whereas most of the stuff up there is 3, 4 usually.
Yeah, almost all the barrels we have are char 3. There's a handful of char 4, but most commonly you see up there char 3.
Right. So it just kind of goes back to Texas. A bit, yes.
Texas does its own thing. I mean, what's crazy, here's some crazy things. So we were looking at so some Kentucky distillers actually heat cycle their warehouses. They pump steam from their boilers in there, it heets them up, let them cool down.
Is a good example of that, right?
And their average temperature, actually, because of that, is actually higher than ours, which is kind of crazy.
Right.
But what's really unique is our summer is just so long that even though they have a higher temperature that they'll reach, because even like our main warehouse back here, hottest I've ever seen, it's 99 degrees.
Okay.
And so if you go...
Is that floor level, or do you...
That's at floor levels. Up higher would probably be 105 or so.
Right, yeah.
But, you go to floor 3 or 4 at any of those other rick houses, and it's quite a bit warmer than that.
It's toasty.
Yeah.
Most of them are... Well, a lot of them are metal, sheet metal.
Exactly.
And just...
Hottest
windows, but I mean, you guys have what
big
12 by 15 doors that you guys can
open up.
Let the breeze flow through. That's if we have a breeze.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to let it open, but it's really interesting on kind of what you see and how the barrels react. And pot still distillate also reacts very differently than column.
Okay.
Even the column still spirit that we've had since new make here on site. It's still also significantly lighter in color, lighter in oak than pot still distillate is. There's just some compounds in those pot still distillates that just absorb faster and more intensely.
I was going to say it has to be like you said, the congeners, but the different things in that come through in a pot still that are getting, for lack of a better term, washed out of a column still.
Yeah, they're staying lower on the column.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Exactly. Okay. Very good.
Oh, yeah. So it's one of those things that's one of the kind of cool magical things about the different styles of distillation of what they can do and what you can end up with just by switching that up.
Yep.
So
that's very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. I want to thank you for joining me on my journey to learn all that I can about these amazing industries. I admit I don't know everything about whiskey, cigars, pipes, or pipe tobacco. I admit I don't know how to pronounce all the Scottish distilleries names. That is something that I am definitely working on. I'm still learning all the different kinds of tobacco that goes into a cigar, and how they're rolled, either by hand or machine. And I've more than scratched the surface in pipes and pipe tobacco, but there's always more to learn. I will, however, be truthful, honest, and admit my mistakes when they happen, and I know they will happen. I will always let you know when I've been giving samples for anything I'm trying, or if I've been invited to as a media member to an event. I will always keep editorial control in-house and will not be paid for a review without notifying you, my followers. I want to thank Robert Likarish for taking time and sitting down with me on the interview, and let you know that next week I will be interviewing Tucker McCormick, the owner of the Algiers Club in Dallas, Texas, and we're going to go over the story of it, future of it, his past. Just overview of a wonderful place. If you're in Dallas, see if you can stop by. It's just a really good private club. So, thank you for watching and or listening. I will see you next week on the Whiskey and Smoke News Network. And remember, please drink responsibly.